Welcome to the show. Today is a treat. I am always in search of people living adventures, living a don't wait life. I've found for you the Lahr family. They are living in an RV. The parents are educating their children from the road, from wherever they are, as they travel the United States. Let them be an inspiration for how you might consider living your don't wait life in 2022. I'm so excited for you to meet them. So thanks for being here, Mel. I'm really excited to talk with you now. We'll introduce your husband later in the show and your children. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here, have this conversation.
I'm not sure if the audience can hear behind here. Hopefully not. Somewhere in my neighborhood, there's a snowblower going, which looks nothing like where you are. Where are you right now?
We are in Sedona, Arizona, kind of parked at a free campsite off grid.
Yeah.
Got the solar going.
How long have you been there?
Actually, we've been here almost 3 weeks now, which is the longest we've been anywhere all year. So.
Oh, great. So you guys just kind of, do you have, well, let's back up a little bit. I introduced you before the show, but let's talk first about what it is about the life you live, which when you and your husband, Luke, made the decision to make this transition 6 years ago, you probably had a sense of what you wanted, but maybe not a clear idea of how it would actually be. So what was it that how did you make that decision? How did you come to that decision in the very first place?
Yeah, so it actually probably was quite a few different factors, but one being we started homeschooling a few years before. I had worked in schools as a social worker for 7 years, and I, stopped working to homeschool. And when we started doing that, we started thinking about our life differently in all the ways. We had lived a really traditional life before that. And then, so homeschooling kind of just, was the domino effect to everything else that we're doing now. But we also had some losses in our life, and we had dreamed of RVing one day, maybe when we were retired, but we thought, why not? I mean, what a cool education to travel and actually get hands-on with the history and the science and the things that we learn about in books, and go on the road. So it was a dream at the time. I had a lot of reservations. I had a lot of thinking, we probably can't do this because of this, and this. But I also was the same way with homeschooling at first. My husband he is more easily thinking outside the box, just his personality. So when he said to me one day, he said, if other people can do this, then we can too. And I said, okay, you're right. You're probably right. We can do hard things. So I started researching and listening to podcasts and realizing other families were sailing the world together and living in RVs and traveling. And so we weren't the first. It wasn't crazy, but it was out of the norm. So anyway, when we decided to do this, we didn't have travel jobs. So we had to think outside the box. And my husband took a job transfer from St. Louis to Houston. And when that happened, that was our opportunity to sell our home and everything in it and move into the RV. So baby step one. And 2 hours after he took that job, I found out I was pregnant with my 4th baby.
Oh, goodness.
So we're like, oh no, what are we getting into?
So before that, you had 4 kids. You had 3 kids already.
Yeah, we had 3 kids already. Yes. Okay.
And so now when you're pregnant with your 4th after making this big, huge decision.
Yes. And we're like, oh, we're moving into an RV with 6 people instead of 5. So yeah, it was kind of a crazy time, but we transitioned, we moved into the RV. That was interesting. Actually, so then we waited until our 4th baby was born before actually launching full time. We were in the RV already. We were traveling around Texas at that point. And we took trips home and stuff, but we weren't on the road full time. My husband still had a job in one place. So to make it work for us, we didn't have the remote job. We didn't have this residual income coming in from anywhere. He had to interview for tons of travel jobs and kind of switch industries. So he was in kind of a manufacturing industry. He's environmental health and safety manager, and he switched to the construction industry. And there's a lot of travel jobs in that. And we had no idea that you could make a good income on the road in safety. And so he found something, and we worked travel jobs for about 4 years. And then he did end up finding a remote position within a company he was working for. But then he was laid off this past March. And so now we have started our own businesses. And this year we are completely free and location independent. So,
Well, when you started out, just give an example of what you thought RV life on the road would be like compared to what it actually is now. Just one example for people who can't imagine it, but you had an imagination, you imagined it for yourselves. How close is it to what you hoped for?
so I would say it's very close in some ways, but not in others. So the main thing, I'm a dreamer. So I constantly was just dreaming of these gorgeous places that we would pull into and have these epic views and all this happy togetherness time, and it would be great. The reality is when you live in a tight space, you're going to argue. Things get loud, especially with little ones. And I don't do well with loud noises. And things break all the time. You're living, it's like an earthquake, your house going through an earthquake all the time, every time you move. So it's not like a house. So you're dealing with a lot of small stressors all the time. So it was an adjustment for sure. I would say that the educating on the road, the being in nature, the hiking, all of that is just as beautiful as I imagined. And these views, never get old. So
When you when you mentioned that you had 3 kids, found out you were pregnant with your 4th, so your 4th baby came home to an RV, is that right?
yes, the same day he was born, he came home to the RV. He knows nothing else.
Well, that's an interesting story just right there, right? I mean, to live his whole life that way, I mean, his own interpretation of that as he gets older. Do you intend to do this throughout his life as well?
So yeah, so I don't know if we'll RV until he's 18, but we do have big dreams now, dreams that I never could have imagined before we started this. But yeah, I mean, we talk about sailing, we talk about van life in Europe, we talk about doing all sorts of crazy things. We would love to world travel. Up until now, having a child younger than 5, the RV's been easier. We also have a dog and a cat, which
I
makes
saw your
world
dog
travel.
back there in the
Yeah. He's wandering around behind us. It's a golden retriever. And then we have a fluffy kitty. So the kitty might be easy to take on a plane with us, but the dog, yeah, he wouldn't do so well because he's older. So
Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk with your husband as well and get his interpretation of your adventures, and then also meet your kids toward the end. So let's take a break. And as we do, we're going to show a beautiful clip of the kids playing with a whale. Really, we'll be back in just a moment.
Rory. Oh my gosh. They're so beautiful. That's okay. Look at them. Look at them. They might still be able to be pets, so it's okay.
I think he's going back.
Just stay right where you are. Don't move unless you think that we're gonna need to, okay?
Oh, that looks like he's shark.
Welcome to the show, Luke. I'm glad to get to talk with both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Yes.
No worries.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you both about, since you're both here now, is it seems a lot of times I follow a lot of people on Instagram and social media who are doing things like you, whether it's a young couple, a single person, a family. And for a couple to do it, let alone a family with the number of children you have, sometimes I would think what happens is two people don't share the same dream. And so one person ends up giving up that dream and takes some kind of alternative route in life. What is it about the two of you that you think made it possible for this dream to come together? Even if you didn't think of it exactly the same way, it's evolved into something that you share.
Yeah, I think, I always had faith in Melissa and everything that she does. And like she said, that if someone else can do it, we can do it. And I love the idea of freedom, getting out there, doing things differently and not being held down.
Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you. Home. Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
So when she came at me with this dream, I just took it as, that aligns with, my freedom aspect. I want to see the country and see it through my kids' eyes. And then I just wanted to make it happen. And I love the engineer part or the logistic part about making all the things work and work together that makes sense for our family.
Well, that was my next question is, what roles do you have on the road? Because Mel mentioned things break regularly. What roles do you each have that you think that you figured out the balance of being on the road like you are?
Well, I'm really good at dishes and saving water and dishes.
Yes.
I love that he loves dishes.
Yes.
No, I think
Especially with several children, that's good.
Right. Like Melissa said before, it's an earth, you're traveling in a trailer, it's an earthquake on wheels, things break. So, that's where I come in. I have to, fix everything. Melissa fixes things in the house as well, but, it's kind of on me to make sure this thing keeps going down the road. And there's been some troubling times before. There's a lot of time on the side of the interstate in the middle of the night trying to fix a leaf spring. So, I just take that role and that sacrifice on that sacrifice portion and just take it on and head it on and figure it out how to keep this thing running.
Yeah, I think it works out really good because I dream it all up. I plan our trips. I plan what we're going to do. He makes sure it happens. It's kind of a cool thing we have going on here.
Well, the good thing too is no matter what breaks, there's always YouTube, right? There's always somebody that's had to fix what you're about to fix or whatever it is. For the people who aren't as resourceful as the two of you could still get most things done. It might take longer.
Well, he has to use YouTube all the time. And that's one thing we like to show our kids, just that if we don't know how to do something, we can always learn. And that's, so the ever learning idea, we're always pulling up YouTube. We're always watching how to do new things. I mean, obviously we didn't know how to repair or work on RVs before we got one. We never even RV'd before we did this.
Yeah. And I didn't think, going into this, how much personal growth you'd have, both whatever you thought, engineering or emotional or relationship, all of it is just growth all around. And it's just something we weren't having before.
I was thinking about what you said in the first segment, Mel, about how your kids, it gets loud and there's more conflict because people can't go in their opposite direction sometimes. And that's really teaching your kids conflict resolution on a scale they wouldn't have learned in a big house where everyone has their own room or their own place to hide out and be quiet or have their quiet.
Well, and absolutely. I think that sometimes when the people are scared of being together with their kids or their families so much because of the conflict. But what we've found is that the more we're together, we also see the sibling bonds grow stronger in positive ways too. So yeah, they argue more. We're around each other all the time. We're in a tight spot, but we're also out in nature. They're working together. They're problem solving, they're supporting each other. So it's both ends of the spectrum you get a lot more of. I mean, when two kids go to school all day and they don't see each other as much, our kids are together. They're just constantly together. So it's different for sure.
You mentioned also considerations of Europe, maybe down the road. And one thing that I think that I've learned through my travels in the United States of America, and particularly in a camper for the 2 years that I did it, is that, well, not 2 consecutive years, the 2 times in a year that I did it for several weeks, is this country is beautiful. And there's so many places to see that we don't think about sometimes. I mean, of course, there's the Yellowstones and the places that you hear about that's on the bucket list or whatever, however people plan out those kinds of vacations, but just this random place where you are that you never would have seen or experienced. How many
Yes,
places
it's
have you come
actually-
across that you just didn't expect to ever see?
So when we were traveling, I think we had even more of that when we were working a travel job, because we were sent to locations that we wouldn't have just picked, right? Yeah, we spent a lot of time in Florida, which was great, and we would have probably picked going to the beach, right? But we also spent time in parts of North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, just states that like people don't pick for tourism always. And we found some hidden gems. We loved finding all of those small towns that had like really quirky, artsy feels, just cool coffee shops and random places. That's part of the journey, right? It's all the in between. And I think that's what appeals to me about traveling Europe in a van or in some sort of vehicle, is when you're traveling by land rather than by air, you get to be immersed in the culture, that part of the country, and the different, things that you wouldn't see if you just flew in and went to Zion National Park and then flew back home,
Well, and do you sometimes stay in places where other people are as well?
Oh yeah.
When
So
you're not off the
right now,
grid?
actually, we just went with another couple and did a winery date yesterday and toured all the wineries down here. They're friends of ours that we were camping with in Zion. And I guess throughout this year, more so once we were working our own businesses and had more freedom of where we wanted to be, yeah, we can be with friends a lot more, because then we're in those cool places at the right times of the year and everything. So
I met some really wonderful people whom I'm still in touch with when I was camping next to them, because you're surrounded by people who, even if they're just out for a little while and they're not living it full time. I met a lot of young couples in beautiful Airstreams who are working remotely and don't have children yet. And and then you meet other people who are families and people are just out for the week or something. You meet these people who share your mindset, because they could be anywhere. They could be in a resort perhaps, but they're choosing to do it the way that you're doing it, and you're sharing the same kind of space, breathing the same outdoor air. It's just a different experience, I think, than meeting anyone I've ever met on a typical vacation.
Absolutely. We couldn't agree more. And we also have noticed that there's actually a bigger family travel community than we realized. So the kids are we're weaving in and out of similar places and seeing the same faces and keeping in touch through social media. It's a really cool time to be traveling like this, because you can stay connected when you're not seeing each other. And then like, hey, I see you're in Arizona too. Do you want to meet up? And I think I have 5 families here in this area right now who want to hang out and get together and do some hikes and stuff. So it's cool, because the kids people would think they don't have friends or something, but it's kind of crazy. They see friends so often and have so much free play in nature together. So
there's no isolation there. No part of your story equals isolation. Let's take a break and let's meet your kids and get their point of view for a moment while we finish up the show. We'll be back in just a moment. We are back, and now we get to meet the children of Mel and Luke. Thank you all for being here. I'll let you, Mel, introduce everybody that's on your lap and each side of you.
Okay, this is Rory. He is 5, and he's the one who came home to the RV and has always lived in it. This is Josie. Josie's 9. You wave and say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Josie.
And then this is Cohen. He's 13. And then my oldest is Leander, but isn't with us in the RV anymore. Leander goes to college now. So
That was one of the things we talked about off camera, is that one of the things I like about hearing about Leander is some people would think, oh, well, if he has lived this non-traditional life, does he go off to college? Does he have a traditional, if you want to call college traditional? Everyone has their own choice in their path, and he chose that path and he gets to live it. So I'm excited for him to get to do his dream as well. So
Yeah.
Cohen, my first question is to you, because you're the oldest. So do you remember life before you lived in the RV?
Yes, very well.
And what is the biggest difference between the life you had before and the life you live now?
Probably the connections you have with your family and friends. You don't get that as often, besides texting, but that's not the same.
So this is real, true interaction,
Yes.
and you enjoy that.
Yes.
How about you, Josie? We showed a clip of you all navigating these, what were they, like caves, kind of like you had to problem solve getting through there. What do you feel like you're learning that you wouldn't have learned in school, even though this is kind of all you remember learning?
Well, you learn like different stuff you wouldn't learn in school. Like you learn about more nature, not like math and stuff.
Yeah, or you learn how to apply math into everyday life. Say reading about nature or something like that in a book is much different than even all that you could explore right behind you right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and how about you, Rory? You've lived there your whole life. I can't wait to talk to you in 10 years and find out what you think of this whole thing, living that way for so many years. But you've only lived this way, and how do you like it?
Because
what do you like about it? What do you like about our RV?
like our views.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, we're going to chat in about 10 years. You could probably write your own book by then about living your whole life in an RV. Well, I'm just delighted to have met you, and my travels take me in different places. So now I'm going to stay in touch with you all, and hopefully maybe we can meet up in person sometime. And I can see you guys up close and kind of
We would love that.
take notes and see how you did it. But thank you for your time, and thanks for including us in your day. What's the rest of the day look like? We've got like 30 seconds left. What are you doing today?
We might go on a hike. We haven't really talked about it. We've just been getting work done all day today. We also have some cabinets to paint because we've been renovating. So it's hike or paint, you know, getting off the painting.
Yeah, I'd go on a hike. Why not, right? Well, thank you both, and thank you all, and have a really wonderful rest of your day, whatever it is you choose to do.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye, wave everybody.
Bye.